Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob and a very scary princess dragon of some description. Welcome back. In this session we're going to be checking out the awesome premium edition Dragons Lair Cabinet from iiRcade. As usual, as you can expect from myself and Lily, you're going to have a very honest, open review. We're going to be talking about the games, of course. We'll get straight into some gameplay, talk about the value, how we think this compares to other cabinets, and whether we think we'd recommend this for your home arcade. So without further ado, let's get into it. Roll the intro sequence, Lils. Alright, so let's talk about the games first. The iiRcade is really designed to bring back those kind of classic retro titles, but to weave in a more modern gaming platform so that you've got those kind of newer 3D updated games as well. So really giving something for the whole family to play on this platform. Now, of course, we purchased the Dragons Lair Cabinet. I think this is one of the classic arcade titles of all time. Whether you like this game or not, you can't argue that it's not a game that needs to have a space in arcade gaming history. So that's obviously preloaded on this cabinet. You don't have to pay any extra for that, but you can download from a huge list of hundreds of different titles from various publishers such as Sega, even iRem, Data East and others. And all of the games are kind of configured to run on the platform. So it shows you the control layout. You don't have to worry about configuring buttons or getting emulation software to run. So 11 titles included, and then obviously you can add more from the store. Dragons Lair being one, Double Dragon, it's a classic everyone will remember. Beach Buggy Racing, which is a newer game for this platform. Gunbird is superb. Bomb Squad, a newer game. Snowboard Racing, Dragon Master, Maniac Square is pretty good. Twin Brats, Fantasy World and Diver Boy. So, out of these games, really Dragons Lair and Double Dragon were the two key ones for me. Actually, once we started playing, I found that I really enjoyed Gunbird and Maniac Square as well. But the point is, it doesn't matter. Some people are going to love those games, others are not. You have the ability to add the games that you want. So if we go over to the store and the games category here, you can see you've got featured games, lists of recent games. You can scroll, and if you want to add a game, it's just as simple as clicking, checking out, and then it will be downloaded to the cabinet. So a good selection here. One thing you will notice if you're a kind of video game geek like we are, the classic arcade titles for me were things like Capcom, Konami, Namco, Atari. These games from these publishers rather, are not present, so they're notably lacking. Hopefully iiRcade will add those. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's show you some gameplay and run you through some of the games that came on the cabinet, and then some of the others that we wanted to go ahead and add. Alright, so let's get cracking with Alien Storm. This was one of the first games we added from the store. Awesome Sega title. Great to see that iiRcade have managed to get licensing in place with Sega. I'm going to look forward to seeing future titles available in the store. So let's check out some gameplay. really forgot how good this game is. Really wish that Arcade 1UP had maybe added this title onto their Golden Axe Sega cabinet. Definitely could have used this and a couple of other Sega titles. So next up we've got Beach Buggy Racing. This was one that comes included in the cabinet, so you don't have to pay for it. Kind of like a Mario Kart game. You can do 2-player split screen on this as well. Pretty fun game. Lily kind of did take a look at this when we did the kind of unboxing. She wasn't overly impressed with it. I think her comment was it's not as good as Mario Kart. Well, of course it isn't. Mario Kart is the classic, and any game that tries to be like Mario Kart is never going to be as good. But anyway, we thought it was okay. Definitely worth keeping on the cabinet since it was free. Just show a little bit more gameplay of the next level here, and then we'll jump into our third game. Alright, so next up we have Burger Time. Definitely wanted to add this on the cabinet, released by Data East in 1982. Fantastic game, couple of issues though. Firstly, the joysticks don't have a 4-way gate, so it's quite difficult and sometimes you can get stuck going up and down, left and right. And then also you can't add the kind of bezel artwork. It would be great if iiRcade could kind of add a setting in the future so you can change the artwork, fill in those side pieces down the side on these vertical games, and also maybe add scan lines and a couple of other options like that would be cool. Alright, so next up we have Double Dragon, one of my all-time favourite beat-em-ups, released by Technos in 1987. We almost bought the cabinet just for this game. In fact, I think the only thing that kind of put me off with the Double Dragon themed cabinet from iiRcade was that you had to kind of put the decals on yourself. One thing I really like about the Double Dragon cabinet is that you've got this laminated artwork. It's super good quality. I don't think you'd get that same effect with the Double Dragon cabinet. For that reason, we went with Dragons Lair. This game definitely makes it in the top 10 for us, but watch till the end and we'll rank all 25 games featured through 25 down to our number 1. Okay, so next up, the game we bought the cabinet for. Now, people who've watched the channel have heard me say this before. I was looking at getting the Arcade 1UP cabinet, and you know what, I thought, this isn't a game that I love, it's a game that I like and has a place in arcade gaming history. Would I buy a cabinet that just had this game on? Ultimately I decided not. We wouldn't get the Dragons Lair Arcade 1UP, but then I kept coming back to iiRcade, the ability to add the additional games but still have it looking cool in the arcade with that original Dragons Lair artwork. Yes, I know the cabinet is not the same as the original, but still, definitely needed to add it in the arcade, and this game definitely features in our top 25, actually in the top 10. So to see exactly where, do watch through to the end, as I said, with Double Dragon. sucked at this game in the arcades in the 80s, I sucked at it when I got it on a Philips CDI in the 90s, and I still suck at it now, unfortunately, but still a classic nonetheless. Okay, so Gunbird up next. This is a game that neither myself or Lily had played, but both really enjoyed, and surprisingly so. In fact, one of our favourite games on the cabinet that comes with it in particular, definitely one you should keep on, and if you haven't played it before, look forward to checking it out. And again, as you can see, no bezel art at the side here. I'd love to see that feature added so that you can add that if you like it, or leave it off if you don't. Maniac Square next, and again another game that was pre-installed that I'd never even heard of, let alone played, and again both myself and Lily very much enjoy this game. Definitely one that we would put in the top 25. Nice little puzzle game, you know, the kind of Tetris-esque, but something different to play here. You know, not as good as Tetris, not as good as Super Puzzle Fighter or something, but a great game nonetheless. An absolute cracker of a shoot 'em up next, R-Type, released by iRcade in 1987. One of my all-time favourite shoot 'em ups, not only in the arcade, in fact played it only a little bit in the arcade, but had this on the Super Nintendo, particularly Super R-Type. Love the game, love the soundtrack, fantastic shoot 'em up, albeit a little on the difficult side, but you know, gotta practice to get good.
Skies.
So, as you just heard, Rangok Skies next, a newer game, released 2021, but a retro shoot 'em up style game. It's got all the bells and whistles. You can adjust the screen size, you can add the bezel art, you can change different settings. Fantastic little shoot 'em up, definitely worth adding, but also, again, iiRcade, please take note, we love these features. We'd love to see these features on the classics too, the scan lines, the CRT effect, the bezel art, etc.
Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. Get ready.
Space Harrier next, and I can't believe this was released all the way back in 1985. It seems a lot newer, a lot more modern than that. I played this in the arcade a lot, along with other games like Afterburner that were out at the time, and also on the Atari ST. So classic game, brings back a lot of childhood memories. And Lily loves this one as well, so great game all round. Alright, so last game of the first section of this review before we take a little bit of a break to look at adding games and the kind of build quality and some of the other capabilities of the cabinet. But next up, Thunder Zone. Hadn't really played this much before, to be honest. Decided to check it out. Obviously you get 30 minutes free trial. Ultimately decided to keep it on. Definitely worth an ad. Hey, so let's take a quick look how to add games. Basically, there's no way on the cabinet itself to browse and download games. You need to do this on a laptop or on your phone. Simply go to the iiRcade website, go to Store and Games. You'll need to log in, of course I've already logged in here. You then find the game that you want. So let's say, for example, Bad Dudes, haven't downloaded that one yet. And then just go ahead and click to buy. Simple as that. You can go in and see which games are installed. You can uninstall games if you've got multiple cabinets. You could have different games on different cabs. And then if we just catch this, we're quite quick enough. You can see it automatically downloaded on the cabinet before I could even get over to it. And there we now have Bad Dudes installed and ready to play. Quick as that. So let's take a look at what else we might want on here. One thing that this is missing is a kind of search browse capability. It'd be nice to be able to search by different vendors or publishers in here, even just to type in a name of a game and search, or even just to view all games, but there's nothing. And to make matters worse, you can't kind of two-finger swipe on here. You've got to kind of click and hold to scroll across. Real clunky website. I'd recommend that they put a couple of developers on this, couple of sprint cycles. Should be able to fix this pretty easily. Let's have a look what else we might want. Toe Jam and Earl, I heard, is pretty cool. Let's go for that one. It's a different game to the one you might have played on the Mega Drive, so this is definitely worth checking out. And you can see, again, as we click OK on there, should move over to the cabinet and we should see that start to automatically download. What else? Let's have a look here. Let's go to top downloads. Let's see what everybody else is getting. Let's go to all time. Retromania Wrestling, no thank you, got that on the Wii, didn't enjoy that at all. Oddmar is supposed to be quite good, let's get that one. And take note, each game you buy on here is going to be an individual transaction on your credit card, so you may want to notify them, stop it getting blocked. There isn't a way to add to cart. Again, that would be a nice feature request, so you could just put in, 10 games or so and then just check out all in one transaction, but that's not currently available. Let's have a look what other games on here. Alien Storm we've already got. Windjammers, not too bad. Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap, haven't played that. Let's give that a go, that sounds pretty good. I like the classic Wonder Boys, and this is a newer version. What else we got here? Toe Jam we just did. Shadow Dancer, I think we got Shadow Dancer, that's another good Sega title. Let's grab that guy. It's a pretty good game. I like the Shadow Dancer series on the various consoles. Jet Pin, I've heard is quite good. I'm going to take a pass on that one though. Got the actual virtual pinballs, which I think are much better for that type of game. Okay, I think that'll do for now. And then, as I said, just go over here for a second. I can see Toe Jam there downloading 536 meg. It's going to take a little while. And yeah, we'll check back and check out those games in a minute. One thing that's quite annoying on here is, so this Toe Jam is downloaded now. It doesn't download in the background, so I don't know if there's a way on here. It doesn't appear to be a way to stop this or to pause it so you can go and play other games. So it's literally as soon as you select and buy the game, it's going to auto download, so make sure you do that at a time when you don't want to play other games on the cabinet. Okay, so my internet seems a little slow for some reason. This has taken ages to download. So while it's downloading, let's talk about the build quality. We've covered quite a bit about the games now, but if we're comparing this to other at-home cabinets like, let's say, At Games, or of course Arcade 1-Up, the build quality is something that is going to stand out being better than those other products. So the wood is a little thicker, it's a little denser, the graphics on there are nicely laminated. You can see this is likely to stand up to a lot more wear and tear versus At Games or Arcade 1-Up. Definitely something that's closer to more of a commercial grade. You could see this being used in a restaurant or a bar or something, and I think it would stand the test of time. You'll notice I changed the bat tops out. I don't like the little ball tops that came with it. I found them a little bit fiddly. I had these spare from my Street Fighter Legacy because I changed the control deck for the boss deck. As you know, this cabinet does come with the Sanwa joysticks. It's the premium. I can't really tell any difference, to be honest. If I compare them as an example to an Arcade 1-Up, these are just as good. Now, I know some people, professional players amongst you, are going to say Sanwa is better. I think for me personally, for Lily, for home use, there's no difference. And in fact, if you're playing burger time, these are incredibly difficult to use. It's difficult to go left and right. I haven't seen that problem on my modded Arcade 1-Up. I can play games on there just fine. These joysticks don't seem to like the kind of four-way games. I have got a product on order that fixes that. It's about 20 bucks, so not a big deal, but just worth thinking about. I think, you know, if you're looking to pick one of these up, you probably don't need to get the premium edition, unless of course you want the Dragons Lair artwork like we did. But otherwise, you know, it's a lot more stable. You compare it, you know, it's heavier. Compare it to the Arcade 1-Up. It's a sturdier system. It's definitely going to stand up to a two-player better. But otherwise, you know, the number one standout for this cabinet for me is the build quality and the artwork. As I said before, I'm not a huge fan of Dragons Lair as a game, but I do believe it has a place in history. It's a classic, and you know, we have to have this in our collection. All right, well, that's seemingly going to take a while. We'll show you some gameplay on those additional games that I downloaded. Since I can't play anything on it while it's downloaded, I'm going to sit down here and have a go on NBA Jam. Alright, so next up, Neo Drift Out. Never actually played this in the arcade, but back in the UK I had a buddy who was lucky enough to have a Neo Geo system, and I had this game, and we used to absolutely love it. So, you know, not a game I played in the arcade, fantastic to be able to add it on here, and a fun game. Definitely worth adding, definitely makes the top 25. controls definitely take a bit of getting used to, but such great fun when you master it.
Stage one. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Watch out!
So next up, Oddmar, another one that you have to add from the store, a little bit pricier, it's a newer game. This did not feature. When Lily and I first looked at what games were on this cabinet, we kind of picked out a top 12. This one didn't come up, mainly because we didn't figure out how to browse the store properly on Safari on a Mac with the issues with scrolling. But then when we posted the video with the top 12, someone did give this a shout out, so decided to check it out. Absolutely love it. Definitely worth the money, definitely worth adding, and in a top 25 list. Bad Dudes next, one that I had on the Super Nintendo. Loved this game, albeit the sounds and the sound effects do get a little bit annoying after a while, but still, great game nonetheless, and in the top 25. The next one, Dragon Breed, another one I hadn't played before getting this cabinet. And that's one of the cool things I think with this cabinet. It's got a bunch of different games on that you perhaps wouldn't have played before. So real good fun checking out some of the older stuff that perhaps hadn't played when I was younger. Lily likes this one too. We saw this posted, it was a recent ad to the store. Saw it posted on the community group. A lot of people were saying it's good, so we thought we'd check it out. And definitely a keeper, definitely in the top 25. Another one from Sega next, Shadow Dancer. Absolutely love the Shinobi series on the Genesis. Loved this in the arcade. Definitely wanted to pick this up and add it to this cabinet. You know, with the Sega titles we've seen thus far, you could literally have a cabinet just for these titles, with the artwork themed to one of them. Hopefully iiRcade kind of picks up on that, and maybe we'll see a themed cabinet to one of these Sega titles in the future. Tengai is the next one we added, and I had never heard of this, never played it before. Lily picked it out from the store. She saw that it had an anime theme and wanted to add this, and has really enjoyed playing this one. I don't know, we'll ask Lily at the end which her favourite game has been, but I'm guessing it could be this one. Earth Defense Force next from Jellicoe, and apologies if I sound like a broken record, but yet another title that I had on the Super Nintendo. Didn't play it in the arcade, had it on the Super Nintendo. For me, obviously, as I've said on many videos, Street Fighter 2 was my all-time favourite SNES game. So no surprise that this is a game that was added. It's a classic on the Super Nintendo. Love the soundtrack in particular. Next we'll get some gameplay in with Lily on Night Slashers. We do love these two-player beat-em-up games, particularly the Capcom titles. This is kind of one of our favourites outside of the Capcom series. I don't know if it's just me or if anyone else has noticed on this game, there is a bit of lag on the music, and I've not noticed that lag playing this on a Pi 4 and RetroPie, so I'm not sure if it's something to do with the emulation software here, or if indeed that's just how the original game was. So let me know in the comments if you know for sure. Next up, Best Bout Boxing. Fantastic little boxing game. Did a little bit of boxing myself when I was a bit younger. Nothing too serious. Always loved a boxing game on a video game console.
Best Bout Boxing.
Good to see that on here, and definitely one I wanted to add. Haven't played this one with Lily yet, but we'll get a two-player going on this at some point.
In this corner, from the USA, Root Smith. In this corner, from Japan, Georgie Horiyuchi. Round one, fight.
And yeah, sorry to any UK people watching, I had to pick the American here. The Brit in this game does suck severely.
Technical knockout. Winner, Root Smith.
Ganru next, and another game that I had not played before picking up this cabinet. Seen a few posts on the iiRcade forum of people saying this is one of the better games released post Strider era, actually developed I believe by some of the developers that worked on Strider, so a little bit similar. Definitely a fun game, wanted to check it out, decided to keep it on the cabinet, so it makes the top 25.
Yo, Earl, take the wheel. I'm gonna go in the back and grab a drink.
Now, Toe Jam and Earl is a game that I played a fair bit on the Sega Genesis, and when I saw that was available on here, I initially thought, oh, it's the Genesis version because this was never an arcade game, but then actually realised this is a remake. Absolute classic. They've really done the original game justice with the retro characters, the music. Super cool game. You definitely want to check this one out. Alright, so we showed all of the games in terms of our top 25, so everything you've seen so far is going to be in this list, but we showed them in no particular order, other than perhaps, you know, the alphabetical order for the ones that were on the cabinet, or then the order that we downloaded and played. And obviously since then we've had time to play the games, and I wanted to put them into some kind of an order. So here's a top 25 in reverse order. And if you disagree, and people will, then let us know in the comments on the video what are your top 5 or 10 games on the iiRcade platform. So in number 25 we decided Maniac Square. This was a game that neither myself or Lily had played before getting the iiRcade system. It was one that was included, released by Gelco in 1996. Pretty fun game. Now, of course, we prefer something like Puzzle Fighter or Tetris, but as far as puzzle games go and the ones that are available on the iiRcade platform, we really like this one. In number 24, Beach Buggy Racing by Vector Unit, a more recent title added to the iiRcade platform. Lily wasn't a fan of this. This wouldn't have been in the top 25 at all for Lily. Her point was, well, what's the point of this game? It's not as good as Mario Kart. I think that's a fair statement. Any game that's like Mario Kart is always going to be compared to it. But I thought this was pretty fun. It's a well-produced game, a lot of fun. It's included on the cabinet. You should definitely keep it on there. Number 23, Thunder Zone, a Data East title released in 1991. Super fun game. And I gotta say, there's a lot of Data East titles that I hadn't necessarily played that much, either on Super Nintendo, which a lot of games were released on, or in the arcade. I had a lot of fun playing this one. Number 22, Rangok Skies, a newer game by Samurai Games, released this year. Again, it's kind of an iiRcade classic, if you will, or should be at some point. Had a lot of fun playing this game. I do find, though, some of the more actual retro shoot 'em ups a little bit better, but this is definitely one that you should have in your top 25. Number 21, classic Bad Dudes by Data East in 1988. I think most people have probably played this either in the arcade or Super Nintendo. Very cool game. 20th spot, Dragon Breed, released by iiRcade in 1989. Number 19, Ganru by Visco in 99. Very much like Strider. You know, if I had to pick which is the best between this and Strider, of course Strider wins hands down, but this is a fun game nonetheless. And then in 18, Tengai by Sikyo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, 1996. Lily particularly liked this one due to the kind of anime type characters. And then 17, Toe Jam, new release of the Toe Jam game by Human Nature, released this year. Definitely worth picking up. Particularly, you know, this platform is not just about retro games. It's getting a mix of the retro games and the newer games, and for that reason, this is definitely one you want to include in your top 25. And then number 16, Riptide by Vector Unit 2020. Again, another game that's included on the cabinet. Definitely one you're going to want to keep on it. A lot of fun. Number 15, we put Dead Cells, a fairly expensive title. I'm not sure it's worth $25, but you know, it's going to have a lot more longevity, I guess, than some of the retro games which you can complete in an hour or so. Definitely a fun game. I really like this one. I see myself playing this a lot in the future. Definitely have this on your top 25. Number 14, classic Best Bout by Jalico, released in 1994. Never played this in the arcade, but I had it on the Super Nintendo. Really like this game. And then 13, another game I played a lot on the Super Nintendo, Earth Defense Force. Great soundtrack on this one as well. And then number 12, Alien Storm, the first Sega title we're putting in the top 25. Great to see iiRcade got this as a licensed game. And then rounding out those outside our top 10, Burger Time, another title by Data East, released 1982, so the oldest game in this initial part of the top 25. This is a great game. One of the things that I think let the overall experience of this game down is the fact that there's no bezel art that you can add to it, so it doesn't fill the whole screen. I hope iiRcade in the future will add options so that you can add bezel art to these kind of vertical games. Alright, so let's get into the top 10. Now you may be surprised to see our number 10 choice is Dragons Lair. I know a lot of people are going to put this number 1, probably controversial decision here, but you know, this is a classic game. It has a spot in arcade history, as I said. If you think about 1984, what games were available? You're very, very simple, not even 8-bit type vector games from Atari, although obviously Star Wars is my favourite game of all time in the arcade. But still, think about how good this game would have looked in 1984 compared to other games. It is a classic, and for that reason it makes the top 10. However, you know, if you look at it now, in terms of playability, it's basically a video and you're clicking a button to proceed to the next screen. It's not that much fun, but it's definitely got to be in your top 10 on this cabinet. Number 9, Neo Drift Out by Visco, released in 1996. Excellent rally game. You know, little tricky to get used to the controls on this at first, but a lot of fun. Definitely in the top 10 for us. And then number 8, a surprise, Gunbird. I'd never played this before. Lily had never played this. Lily was actually arguing this was perhaps her favourite game, but we've negotiated the list here. You know, released by Sikyo in 1994. I had never played this game before picking up the iiRcade cabinet. And you know, I think that's one of the cool things about this cabinet. You're going to find games in the store that you've never played before. You'll have a lot of fun. And with the iiRcade policy, you can download, check it out. If you don't like it, you can get a refund within the first 30 minutes. So do check out those games that you haven't necessarily played before. Number 7, a lot of people are going to place this higher. It's Shadow Dancer by Sega, another Sega title, released in 1989. Absolutely love the whole Shinobi franchise on the Genesis, and of course love this game in the arcade too. Number 6 is Oddmar, another newer game, released in 2020. Really like this game. Only played the first level so far. Really want to get into this game and spend a bit more time with it as time permits, but fantastic game. Should definitely have this in your top 10. Number 5, Double Dragon. Of course, you can buy the cabinet with Double Dragon artwork. I think if it wasn't stick-on artwork, we perhaps would have chosen the Double Dragon design over Dragons Lair. But nonetheless, this is a fantastic game. One of my favourite beat-em-ups of all time. You know, only the Capcom titles are really gonna beat this, with the exception of one other, as you'll see in a minute. Number 4, Space Harrier by Sega, 1985. Love this game in the arcade. Kind of came out around the time of other games like Afterburner. You know, real fantastic experience if you played this game back then in the arcade. And then R-Type, one of my favourite all-time shoot-em-ups, released by Irem, 1987. Played this in the arcade, as well as Super R-Type on the Super Nintendo. Absolute classic. Definitely needs to be in your top 10. And then finally in number 2, I mentioned the only non-Capcom game for me that kind of beats Double Dragon as a beat-em-up, Night Slashers. A lot of fun playing this, also great 2-player. Haven't finished the game yet. Me and Lily will play this through at some point. Definitely one of our favourite games on this cabinet so far. And then, to round it out, what's our number 1? It's going to be a surprise. It's a surprise for me. Another game that we had not played until we got this cabinet. Coming in number 1 is Wonder Boy. As I said, some people are going to be surprised, and a lot of people are not going to say this is number 1. But for us, both Lily and myself really enjoyed this game. It kind of depicts the whole iiRcade experience, right? Bringing that kind of retro feel with newer, up-to-date graphics that younger kids are going to enjoy. This game is fantastic. I loved the original Wonder Boy. It's not very often that the newer game is as good. I think this is. It's super cool. Obviously you heard some of our comments earlier on in the video. This is our number 1. If you disagree, I'd love to hear what you think.
Hey everyone, so thank you very much for watching. We realise this has been a longer video than we normally do. There's a hell of a lot to get through with the iiRcade, especially a lot of games to get through there. I hope you like the top 25. If you don't, let us know what games we missed from it. Before I do my summary, as is customary, Lily, what do you think?
No.
Okay, you can't just say no. Why no?
Personally, I don't like the fact that it's taller and it should be lower, and it's just the artwork is not, no. It's just no.
Okay, so it's taller. You prefer the other machines to be just so smaller.
Short.
Okay, and you don't like the artwork. I know you prefer the Mutant Academy. What about the game? You played a lot of games in there. What do you think?
I only like the anime ones because I love my anime, but the other stuff, no.
Okay, so the games are not good. You prefer the games on the arcade 1-ups or the Switch or?
Switch.
You prefer the Switch? Okay, well, I disagree. I mean, I think it's a great cabinet. So, you know, I think it depends what you're looking for. If you're just going to get one cabinet and that's all you have space for, the fact that it doesn't have a lot of the Capcom games, I think would be a no for me. But, you know, they're going to add games to it. So think about that for in the future. But I think if you've got a multi-cabinet arcade, then this fits in real nice alongside the arcade 1-ups. And there's a lot of games on here that you can't get an arcade 1-up for. So some of the Data East titles, for example, Tato just added a few titles as well. Some great games. So I think as part of a multi-cab arcade, this is a fantastic unit. If you were just going to get one cabinet, I think something like an arcade 1-up, maybe modded with a Switch, would be the way to go. But if you're thinking about getting the arcade 1-up Dragons Lair, I would definitely recommend this over that. The build quality is much better, the screen, the speakers, I like the artwork. I realise it's not to the true design of the original Dragons Lair, but the fact that you can add games to this, I don't think I would buy just a Dragons Lair cabinet, but this is good with the expansion. So definitely a thumbs up from me. I love the iiRcade. We're going to be doing future videos as games come in. Lily is not overly impressed, but you know, we like to give an honest review here. I think this is maybe more of an adult's cab than one for your kids. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give us a like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Bye!